Dailies today
on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
.3 Nigeria Info. Lovely morning to you, Lagos, Nigeria. Yes, we are back. Let's begin to take a look at big stories from the papers today. I'm Sheriff Quadry.
I'm Jimi Disu, and happy birthday to Funsha of MTN. You must once in a while, you must get us. Funsha, happy birthday. He's one of their top guns there.
Yeah. Happy birthday to you, Mr. Funsho. Now, you can watch us live on Facebook, and we're also live on YouTube. Feel free to join us on those two platforms. Just search for Nigeria Info 99.3, and you'll be able to join the show this morning. So let's start this morning with the Vanguard newspaper, page 5 of the Vanguard. Anambra polls uproar as FG threatens emergency rule.
Yeah, I had a bit of the calling this morning. Well, I quite identify and sympathize with those who are inclined to believe that the government, shouldn't declare a state of emergency in Anambra and indeed in the East as a whole. Not because I don't believe in state of emergency, but because all these processes have been completely tainted by religious, tribal inefficiencies at the top and so on and so forth. And therefore, we find that a decision that could have been taken in good faith, has been completely jeopardized. It is clear to me, and clear to quite a number of people, that these governors, largely from their own, doing, have lost control of that region. They are not respected, they are not reckoned with. And it's understandable. They haven't delivered the goods, they haven't been there for the people, they don't identify with them. They've created a bridge, a larger bridge between themselves and the people that they govern. And so what you end up having is mayhem. On the other hand, to now say that the federal government should come and take control and appoint an administrator in that region would be totally unacceptable to the people, and one understands that. But then the next question is, so what next? So what do you do? It is quite clear that if we move on at this pace, somebody is going to be taking over the reins of power in some states in the East, not just Anambra, at the rate at which we are going. So what do? We might have to reach a compromise. We might have to reach the kind of compromise we had when Jonathan, what was it called now? A doctrine of
necessity.
We might have to reach some kind of agreement where you might not have emergency rule, but there'll be some emergency backup, let me put it that way. Because it is quite clear. When I find people making comparison between the North and between what is going on in the North and what is going on in the East, and how the government hasn't declared the state of emergency in the North or in the East, first and foremost, the issues are not the same. You need to understand that. The issues are not the same. Secondly, you need to be in the shoes of those on ground in the East. It's okay to be here in the comfort in the Keja, in your house in Apapa, in your house in Lekki, phone in and say that, yes, it should be this and it should be that. The people in the East are suffering. And somebody has to bail them out of this predicament where you can't go out on Mondays. Fair enough, that's symbolic. But now they're facing the threat of being forced to sit at home for 1 month. And so when you put all these things together, you will see that we ourselves as a people have created this scenario where now every decision is tainted, by some political and other considerations. So what do I suggest? What I suggest is that there will have to be a bridge of some sort. These governors have lost control. They've almost lost the moral rights. They've lost the authority on the people, and it is self-made. I keep repeating, the symbolism of a governor, for example, having a Rolls Royce in his country home and it getting burnt on me is at these times. The fact that they haven't made any, you keep talking about being marginalized, but the leaders in the East have marginalized their own people. I've always had a dream of the East being, I would have had a dream of the East being a place where, okay, fine, you're having problems at the center, those are political, but the resources of the individuals and the little resources that have come to the East itself through whatever means, would have turned that place into some form of El Dorado. These are very enterprising people. They're the most enterprising people in the whole map of Nigeria. And so what political whatever is going on at the center, it shouldn't stifle development. But what do you have? They've had some of the most corrupt leaders that you could look at, a former governor and things that are ascribed to him. Not that it's any different in the West, it's even worse. But for the fact that the likes of Awolowo and co had laid a very solid foundation in the past, the West itself would have been in tatters. And if you continue to have a situation where, during a man's tenure, somebody takes 15% of the tax, all the state resources come to him, instead of providing schools and whatever for your people, you are building statues. You're building, you're building statues, building all kinds of things. Then we have a problem. So let's see if we can have a middle of the road. The Southeast leaders need to lock themselves in with the federal government and find an initial solution to the insecurity. The final solution would be to find a political middle road between both the federal government and the East and the Eastern leaders and their people. The conflict is in two forms. There's a political one. Then there's also the one between the Eastern leaders themselves, who seem to have lost all authority. That's my take on that. Heaven help us all. Something then came to mind, and I chuckled this morning. And I said to myself, I hope nobody's going to suggest one of these days that we should have a state of emergency even at the center, because things are not holding down too well. But that was just a joke to brighten your day. We'll go to the next story.
Let's go to the next one. Vanguard is here, page 11 of the Vanguard. Unilag, why Babalakin quits. FG explaining.
Yeah, the story is messy. Very messy. I'm going to take time. Of course, I have an interest in Unilag. That's the school that I went to. Sorry, history cannot be changed.
It's okay. It's fine.
I know. We will redeem it. Do a doctorate or something.
I don't need. Honestly, I don't need Unilag.
Okay, we will accept it for a 2-week workshop.
I really don't need Unilag.
You know, some Nigerians, they go for a 9-month course in some whatever workshop in Harvard, and then they say they're Harvard alumni.
There are so many short courses,
Okay, back to this one now. Yeah. The Director Press and Public Relations of the Federal Ministry of Education, Ben Gung, explained in a statement and insisted that the former pro-chancellor, that is Wale Babalakin, remained indicted and removed from office. Now, it says, the statement reads, the senior advocate of Nigeria had accepted his guilt. He had accepted his guilt by resigning hours before the release of the white paper that came out of the special presidential visitation. Okay, adding that the hostility towards the permanent secretary for doing his job is unnecessary and unjustifiable. And it says, after weeks of media hostilities over another contrived crisis in the University of Lagos, the federal government has maintained that the embattled former pro-chancellor, Wale Babalakin, was not exonerated by the General Martin Luther Agwai-led regular visitation panel to the university. This is in contradiction to what we are made to believe recently. It says, following his indictment for breach of due process and flagrant disregard for the university laws in the aborted removal of the VC and the unilateral appointment of an acting VC, the special presidential visitation panel and the white paper thereof recommended and approved, respectively, his removal from office and dissolution of the governing council. While condemning the campaign of calumny as a desperate attempt to distract and slow down the rising profile of the university, Gung said facts on the ground spoke to the contrary. When he was asked to clarify whether the second visitation panel exonerated Babalakin from the indictment of the special visitation panel, Gung said, and I'm quoting him, "It is embarrassing for a lawyer of Babalakin's standing, a senior advocate of Nigeria for that matter, to say that a regular visitation panel has exonerated him from the indictment of an earlier visitation panel on 3 grounds. First, the regular visitation panel was not and is not and cannot be an appellate body for the special visitor." It goes into all this, but he says that the verdict was clear. due process was not followed. The panel has this to say about the appointment of an acting vice chancellor. It is abundantly clear from the provisions of the law that the council has no powers, and then goes into long. At the end of the day, the Federal Ministry of Education has said that Babalakin has been duly removed as pro chancellor, even though it was said that he had resigned earlier. And all of us know the misinformation that we got. My friends in the journalist hangout said that they accused Babalakin of raping the they accused him of raping the media. It's quite unfortunate. I think somewhere between meaning well and all other considerations, our dear gentleman Wale Babalakin, his ego got in the way, and that usually once that happens, then there's a likelihood that you put a wrong foot forward. But what is most important, just like it happened with the appointment of the Vice Chancellor of Lagos State University and all the controversies, what is most important is to keep the university going and make sure that our students have the opportunity to continue with their studies in peace and in comfort.
Right. Let's go to the Punch. Page 6 of the Punch. We have two stories here. Sanwo-Olu praises names estate after late Ndubisi Kanu.
I thought you were going to say Nnamdi Kanu like your caller this morning. I almost ran into the keke in front of me. Yeah, I mean, Nnamdi Kanu was a nice governor, and we all know.
You just said Nnamdi Kanu.
Did I call him Nnamdi Kanu? I think I have to go back to bed. Ndubisi Kanu was a governor who made an impact. Here in Lagos here, and as a Lagosian, I cannot on behalf of my people but thank him for the services he rendered. Also, most of you might not know the role that he played during Nadeco. It is a very quiet man. He's not given to, but he played a very significant role, and I'm glad that he was honored. Yesterday there was a day of tributes. Now, and I sat back, this morning trying to see if I could drink the coffee that I'd made. I sat back and I was thinking, some of the significant governors, the governors that had made a very large impact in this state, are not even Yorubas, talk less of being indigenous. I think of Kano, I think of Marwa. Marwa is probably the best governor we had during the military. And thank God for our own star boy here. He would have been the best we had till date. You know our star boy.
Who is that?
Okay.
So who is our star boy?
I forgot. I thought
it's whiskey that I know, but
whiskey. I'm talking of fashion, but for his own tenure, and that brings into case this argument about indigenes and indigenes. Sometimes we don't need to stress. Look at Marwa, for example. Marwa did excellently well. There'll be a lot to criticize him for, but during his tenure as a military leader, again, it's important to note that as a military leader, he made a very strong impact. He made life bearable for the civil servants. His security network was next to none. I spoke about it 2-3 days ago. And he's peaceful man, in spite of the fact that he was a soldier. And in spite of the fact that it was during Abacha's time. Where were you during Abacha's time?
Where was I? I was in Lagos. I was at home.
You were at home?
Yeah.
One day, I'm going to bring Ken the banquet on here for us to review the day I was arrested. And they told me, okay, as we have arrested you here now with posters and everything in your car in Ijesha, when we leave here, we are taking you to DHQ. From DHQ, you are going to meet Mustafa. You know, a whole general, you know what happened to him when he got in front of him. If I had gotten that far, I would have fallen on my sword. But guess what? How did I get out of it?
No, what was caught with you? What were the
posters?
things?
My boot was full of them. You know what? Posters about myself and Kendi Bangweton, who later became commissioner under Tinubu.
Yeah.
Caught with them. I had this old 505 then. They got us with loads of posters at Ijesha here. The policemen that caught me took off their uniform, followed me to the bank and emptied my account. I willingly did it. I willingly did it. The thought of
better that than go to.
I wouldn't be here today If you mention my name, by that time, sir, I hadn't even acquired my Ikoyi residence. So maybe I would have been buried somewhere in wherever it is. One day I will tell 2 stories I still have to tell you people. Anyway,
We're still waiting for your frat story.
Let's get let's get back to
Interesting. We can't wait. But to be serious,
yes.
when are you telling us these stories? They're piling up too much.
Soon. I want my grandsons to grow up first, so that they too can hear and understand it.
Okay. All right. I think I can understand that. We'll wait. You'll be here. They are sharp boys, so
but if along the line they are joined by another grandson or daughter, we have to wait for that.
No. Grandsons. This is the one that we have now. Those are the ones we are waiting for. Those ones can pass the message to the other ones. Let's stay on page 6. Let's take this story here on page 6. Will curb incidents of building collapse, says Sanwo-Olu.
Nah, there was nothing of the sort. Yesterday we had inauguration of the Certificate of Completion and Fitness for Habitation by the Lagos State Building Control Agency. It's just another door open for corruption. This government refuses. This, and even the previous governments too, I must quickly admit, that is riddled with corruption, this building approval process. Take a drive to Yaba, who could have approved such a thing? Take a drive to Olonode, Wakeman, take a drive to Lagos Island, and see the nonsense that developers are putting up. Who would have, an OND student would not even have approved some of these things. But that process is riddled with corruption. And as we speak, things are not any different. Things are not any different. And that's why I sympathize with Sanwo-Olu. He probably means well.
Yeah.
You know, he said, this is a game changer in building control strategies, as it portrays us as a government that thinks ahead, as well as concerned about it. How many people have you prosecuted for sabotaging this process, both internally and externally? How many people who have been involved, developers and so on, in the death, who have gotten involved in the death of people from this collapses and so on, have been charged for manslaughter? How many? I'd like the Attorney General to give me the list. How many? So it's not about certification or whatever. It is simply enforcing what the law says about these things. Certifying people is not going to solve your problem completely. It's not the problem with us when we talk about constitution and this and that. No, it's the practitioners. That effort that you put in to make sure that the right thing is done. We don't have it. We don't have it. I challenge the Attorney General, Mr. Onigbanjo, to give me the list of those who in the last 6 years have been prosecuted for malpractices in the building process. And I say both internally and externally, because it is somebody that would have approved it. How many of the civil servants who are in this process have been indicted? I challenge the Attorney General today.
When I read that story this morning, one thing that came to mind was that here we go again. Here we go again.
What you get from the APC government in Lagos is always rhetoric
again. I mean, there's absolutely no need for this.
A government that banned Okada, if you go on Eco Bridge, which is
you see them there.
You see them in droves, driving against traffic.
Right there.
If for somebody, you probably wonder why I get so agitated. Sheriff, if you had seen, I'm going to talk to a gentleman this morning on his 80th birthday, Sumi Smart School, and I'm going to upset him by asking him about Yaba. If you see Yaba when we were growing up,
he now knows. He won't get upset.
No, you see me sleeping, Papa. I'm my son. He's 80. If you see what Yaba looked like,
yeah.
One day I took a walk to where I was born in the United Kingdom. And I shed tears for my country. Do you know why? I looked at the house. Not that I could recognize it but it still looks the way it must have looked in 1955 when I was born.
And we have many structures like that.
Yeah. But here, we've looked at, I didn't know, Gusonya. There was a video I circulated on my Instagram. If you want to see some of these things, go to my Instagram of what Adeniro Gusonya looked like. It was supposed to be a completely residential area. Look at Lekki 1. Lekki 1 has become a commercial this thing, and a red light district.
Almost completely commercial.
Almost completely commercialized. We don't have that discipline. It's coming to Ikoyi now. We're breaking down all the houses, all the detached houses, and putting up humongous structures by influential people. And the Lagos State government doesn't have that authority to say, no, we need to preserve these things and leave a decent. The Yaba one is the one that upsets me completely. It has become a concrete jungle. It's like a ghetto. Lagos Island is not any better. So you have this, it's called, what do you call it now? This game changer is supposed to be Certificate of Completion and Fitness, Jimi.
Jenny.
That's an added cost to the cost of construction.
Jenny. People will just be making
The
money.
simple solution is to apply the laws and go after defaulters and make examples of them. We don't do that. Next.
Let's go to page 4. We're going to stay with Punch. Let's go to page 11 now. 500 Nigerians lose jobs as UAE declines renewal of work visas.
This is just a simple announcement for my brothers and sisters who go to some of these agencies that say that they have jobs for you in Dubai and some other places. Here now, 500 Nigerians have lost their jobs in UAE because UAE have refused to renew their work visas. So if any agencies are telling you that they can get you a job in Dubai or Qatar, any of these places, you better think twice. Do your investigation thoroughly. It says here, over 500 Nigerians have lost. In fact, there's a video again on my Instagram that shows the plight of Nigerians in Dubai. You know, whole load of them, because it's full of Indians and all over the world, people are rushing there for jobs. And it says that as over 500 Nigerians have lost their jobs and are stranded. They've been stranded for about 4 months after the UAE stopped granting or renewing direct employment visa for Nigerians in the Asian country. It was gathered that while it's not an Asian country, UAE is not well. It was gathered that while many of the affected persons had returned to Nigeria, hundreds of them are still in UAE in the hope that Abu Dhabi would reverse the decisions. And that is one country where you don't want to be an illegal immigrant. Because even as a legal immigrant, anybody who's gone to Dubai will tell you, at their immigration control, you can sometimes feel the hostility to you as a person. So talk less of you being discovered as an illegal. That the Middle East is not an area where you want to go, you know, as an illegal. You better not try it.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So if anybody tells you that they can get you a job you better think twice before you go and release the 800,000 you've saved in your account to some trickster who take the money and then bind you to the Philistines and leave you on your own there.
Indeed. I want to take this story here from the Punch before we go. Page 20 of the Punch newspaper. It says, pilgrimage sponsorship places undue burden on state resources.
Yaya Bello has started his manifesto. You know, we're just waiting for him to come up. But I agree with him on this. We shouldn't even think about it. It's only in countries like ours that you find people sponsoring private enterprise, like going on pilgrimage. The injunction in Islam is that if you can afford
If you can afford it.
it is stated there.
Right.
And any pilgrimage you go to that is not from your resources, from a donation from somebody close to you, your brother, whatever, it's all null and void in reality, because you are using the people's money for you alone to go on pilgrimage. And we don't think that deep enough to think that the money that is meant for people's welfare, which in itself is not enough, is what you, as an individual, to go to. So, what do you think? What do you think you would benefit spiritually from such a trip?
Spiritually, we have to go now. We
are going now.
We need to go.
Yeah.
You not take me along.
Just let me go.
What is it?
No, if you have to give me about 1 week's notice. Keep about
what does that mean?
Let's leave that one.
I don't understand what you're saying.
Sumi Smart Cole will be here at 9 o'clock. We'll be talking about the good old days in Lagos.
I still don't understand what you're saying.
We'll be back at 8
No, you are not coming back at it. All right. Thank you so much for calling.
Sheriff, yeah, thank you.
Let's go to break right now. We have the news up next at 8 o'clock. After 8 o'clock news, we'll be talking breast cancer. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, by the way. So we'll be having that conversation this morning. And we still have 10K to give away on the Morning Trust Party. It's our anniversary month, so we're doing this CSR to, say thank you to you, our listeners out there. So watch out for those two coming up after the news. Stay with us.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.